This January, Disney Plus is the home to new stories, new journeys, and new beginnings, with Disney's National Treasure Edge of History, as well as Star Wars Bad Batch Season 2 for the older kids in your family. Months have passed since the events on Kamino, and the Bad Batch continue their journey navigating the Empire after the fall of the Republic. I'm definitely looking forward to that new National Treasure show for one of our Friday family movie nights to cuddle up on the couch with some popcorn. All these and more streaming this month only on Disney Plus. Hey friends, it's Mr. Jim and welcome back to Kid Short Stories. If this is your first time, welcome to the family. We are the podcast that turns your ideas into an amazing adventure every single day. You know, we couldn't even exist without imaginations from kids just like you. So if you have an idea for a story, I'd love to see it. Check down in the show notes below for how you can submit your own story idea, and maybe we'll turn it into an awesome adventure. And parents, if you're new to kids podcasting, I want to challenge you to listen to podcasting for 5 days in a row with your kids. It's going to increase their imagination, decrease screen time, and we're going to have a lot of fun along the way. Are you guys ready for today's adventure? Me too, let's go! Time to go to Grandma's house, time to go to Grandma's house, Poppy sang as she zipped up her overnight bag. She had all the essentials that you need for such an event as Grandma's house. Bed sheets for blanket forts, check. Flashlights for flashlight tag, check and check. Oh, and cheese sticks, in case they got hungry, you know. Grandma would be there to pick Poppy up soon, so she headed outside to wait. Goodbye, I'm going to Grandma's, Poppy called out to all her toys that were staying behind. It was important that they knew where she was going, so they wouldn't worry, of course. Then she opened the front door and headed into the yard to practice cartwheels. She threw her hands up in the air and went from right side up to upside down to back again, the world around her spinning with each cartwheel. Oh, she loved the feeling of the wind through her hair as she was flying around. She also was watching the world above her go from sky blue to grass green when she realized something was missing. Hey, where are the neighbors' houses? Poppy noticed that besides the grass, there wasn't anything else she could see. The neighbors' houses were pretty far away, but she still should be able to see them. At least she thought. She walked to the side of her house and through the grass for a while. I should definitely be able to see them from here, she said to herself. Poppy was about to take another step when she looked down at the last minute and stumbled back onto the ground behind her. Ah! She shrieked. A cliff? What is this doing here? Poppy crawled back towards the edge and looked over. Way far down below were her neighbors' houses, along with the rest of the town. What? Her house was now raised up high into the sky and on top of a humongous mountain. Where did this mountain come from? How did my house get up here? Poppy shouted. But the question she was most concerned about was, oh dear, how will I get to Grandma's house? It was way too far for Poppy to jump and too steep for her to climb. Poppy sat back and brainstormed some ideas to get her down the mountain so Grandma could pick her up. I don't have an airplane or really anything with wings. What if I ask a friendly eagle to scoop me up with his talons and carry me down? Yeah. Poppy looked around for one, but the only birds in the trees were tiny blue ones. Could a bunch of tiny blue birds carry me down together? Poppy walked over to ask one, but it just chirped and flew away. With her first idea unsuccessful, Poppy began planning again. What if I tie the bed sheets for the blanket fort together and use them like a rope to climb down. Poppy began knotting each one together. When she finished, she went over to the edge and hung them down, but they didn't even make it past the first cloud. Okay, time for plan C, she said. I can't fly down or climb down on blanket ropes. Maybe I could sled down. She imagined herself holding her bright red sled and taking a running start before leaping onto it and whizzing down the very steep side of the mountain. She would need some controls so she could weave in and out of the boulders and any other obstacles in her path. Her grandma would be waiting at the bottom, clapping and smiling at her arrival. This seemed like a great plan, but there was one important detail missing. Sleds need snow, and there was no snow. Think, Poppy, think! She lied back down in the grass. She watched an ant disappear into its home underground. Underground? If I could dig a tunnel down through the mountain, I could meet Grandma down at the bottom. Poppy imagined all the burrowing creatures she might meet as she dug. Maybe she would pass a friendly worm or be invited for lunch by a rabbit family. Poppy imagined crunching carrots in the bunny family's burrow, the walls lined with bunny family photos as they sat around the wooden table. Oh, but she needed to focus. Yes, digging seemed like the best option for now. Okay, I just need to find a big enough shovel. Poppy made her way behind her house, relieved to see the shed was still there and hadn't disappeared down the mountain. She squeezed past the lawnmower and rummaged through the gardening tools. Aha! Here it is! Poppy held the shovel in front of her like a large trophy. Now it was time to dig! She walked around the grassy mountain top, looking for the best spot to get started. Not too close to the house or the shed, but not too close to the edge either. She decided that the middle of the front yard would be the best spot. Poppy stuck her shovel into the ground with all her might and grunted as she pulled out the first large chunk of grass and dirt, tossing it to the side. She got into a rhythm of scoop, dump, repeat, and was making excellent progress. As Poppy stood in the hole now, the ground was just past her knees. She had encountered several worms already, but none of them had responded to her friendly greetings of hello or are you enjoying this pleasant day, Mr. Worm? They weren't very talkative. She wasn't sure if they weren't responding because they weren't misters or maybe they just couldn't understand her. This is harder than I thought it would be. Groaned Poppy as she scooped out another clump of dirt. The hole was almost deeper than she was tall when she heard something that made her stop. There was a low, rumbling sound coming from down the road. Poppy stood on her tiptoes to see the ground above when she saw Grandma's car pulling into her driveway. Grandma! Poppy shouted, waving her arms. Grandma, over here! Grandma made her way over and looked at Poppy, shovel in hand, face and clothes smudged with dirt. What are you doing down there? Grandma asked. I was trying to dig a hole down the mountain so I could get to you. I woke up and the house was on a mountain and I looked over the edge and saw there was no way down. Wait, hold on a second. Grandma? How did you get here? The mountain is so steep. Grandma smiled and pointed down the road, the opposite direction from where Poppy had spent her morning. Well, the road, of course. Grandma helped Poppy get out of the hole, and together they gathered her things. She explained how the other side of the mountain isn't a steep cliff, and really is quite lovely with all of its trees and animals. Ah, what a relief. Poppy hopped into her grandma's car, and they took down the road, down the other side of the mountain to Grandma's house. This may be the end of the story, but I think it's only just the beginning of the amazing adventures that lie ahead for Poppy at her grandma's house.
We'll be right back after a brief word from our sponsor. Wow, looks like we're already back to the show.
Great job. You listened all the way to the end, and you know what time it is? It's time for Kid Shoutouts. I want to say hey to Avi from California, Louis from Sydney, Australia, Moshe from Tampa, Javier from Chicago, Kiera from Washington, Dylan from Toronto, and Ayla from Oregon. I'm so glad that you're all in the Kid Short Stories family. We could not have this much fun with imagination without you, my friends. Well, you have a super duper day, and I'll see you next time. Bye!
We'll be right back after a brief word from our sponsor.